to the Marketing Nomad Show, the fun pit stop for all things Instagram, where I also share my entrepreneurial journey, some of my lessons, wins, and challenges along the way, so it can inspire you to get started and grow on Instagram as well. Welcome to the Marketing Nomad Show, Aira. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing
Happy New Year, by the way.
Yes, Happy New Year. Oh God, it's so nice to see you. You're definitely the first podcast interviewee that I'm sitting with after the new year has begun. So woohoo, super excited about that. And I
Yeah.
think today's topic for the podcast as well is so relevant to the new year. So I feel like it coincides so well. So without further ado, let's get started into today's episode. Today's episode is more about creative burnout, how to recognize creative burnout, and how to ensure that you overcome this creative burnout through different various methods that Aira is the total expert on. We're gonna, kind of dive a little bit into her techniques, and we're going to get so much knowledge. And I know for one, this episode is going to be so important to me because as a content creator, as somebody who's always in the creative mode, creative burnout is something that is so common with me, especially. So I'm looking forward to learning so much from you today, Aira. So first off, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this podcast and sharing your expertise with me and my audience as well.
Yes. Thank you for having me as well. It's an honor.
Thank you, Ira. All right, Ira. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start your journey? What triggered it? And how has your journey been so far?
A little bit of backstory, since being a chef and culinary is also a creative pursuit in some sense. I experienced extreme burnt out as well, partly because it's physically taxing, and partly it's also mentally taxing to think about um everything, and everything in the back end of the kitchen. So it's like, for example, the restaurant has a front end and a back end. Just like any business, there's a front end and a back end, right? So it took a toll on me because it kind of became routinely as well. So there's that. And I was working at my friend's restaurant as a sous chef before. So that actually triggered an existential crisis as well. So, and at the time I was around 22, and the common quarter life crisis came in a little bit early for me, but I guess it was some sort of a blessing as well, because I was able to find uh not only ways how to get out of it, but also community and people that I was able to lean into, and especially resources like, like goal setting and really tuning into what I want. So eventually I came out of it much better, and now that I'm working on my own business, that's what I want to focus on as well, to help others who are experiencing the same stuff.
Sorry, I muted myself over there. But that's amazing, Ira. It's amazing that you've come so far from being a chef to starting your own business to having that reason why you want to help other solopreneurs because you went through that yourself. So tell us a little bit about what led to this burnout during that time. I know that you said it was a very hectic work schedule, but I feel like with creative burnout, you don't realize it until it gets to an extreme point. So, what were some of the signs that you felt you had overlooked, and some of the signs that we as content creators, as solopreneurs, we probably should be looking out for as for creative burnout?
So, in terms of creative burnout, and because what I had was creative burnout, and then it crossed to an existential crisis. So, either way, sometimes it leads to that, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll just notice that, oh, this is already a burnout. but mostly it's because of you'll notice it because you're starting to get sick. For me at that time it was um extreme exhaustion, and then back and forth with feelings of I feel stuck in this situation, or I'm just really confused about everything. Do I still want to work on this even? And then really just so much exhaustion about different aspects, not only in the creative part but also in your life, and you there's some discontent. That's the number one, I think. There's really just discontent, and then sometimes it shows up and manifests as physical pain. Like for me, it was tendonitis on my shoulder. And as you know, being a chef, I need my arms, I need my hands, and it I was just always in pain. And for others, they straight up get sick, go to the hospital, and hopefully that I wish that doesn't happen to everyone. I hope that won't happen to them, but there are already signs before then. It's like for me, another one would be dreading to wake up and just wanted to throw my phone because of the multiple alarms. And but also another one is at night I can't even sleep because thoughts are running around. It's like you're questioning everything too. And then there's that avoidance and escapism. So even when you're at work, you're dreading you're dreading the work that you do. Even if I like being a chef, even if I love being creative as a chef, when it starts to become a routine, there's some part of it that um is not as not really creative, but not as lightening up for you anymore. So, and at that time I cannot take a leave because it was just the two of us, just me and my friend. So it really took a toll on us and for her as well because she also got sick at the time. So that's when we were noticing we were both going towards a burnout. And you'll also notice that there's you feel like you're isolating yourself as well. So that's actually the time that you need help but you're not seeking for help. That can also be very dangerous.
Absolutely. I felt that each of those signs are so crucial to identify and to know, because once you reach a certain point of creative burnout, I feel like the longer you take to recognize it, the more difficult it is to get out of it. To get out of it in the initial stages is so much easier than when you are way deep into it, like you not able to get up, you're not able to function. Your physical body is, kind of giving up on you and telling you, hey, you need to take a break, you need to relax right now. I feel it's just so much harder to get back when you are at the far end of it. So recognizing it right up front is definitely a good way to go about it. And do you have, some techniques or some thoughts on how do you actually, kind of get over the creative burnout, especially the initial stages? We'll talk about the later stages, towards a little bit into the episode, but the initial stages, once you recognize it, what are your thoughts, or the steps that one should take to, immediately get over it?
So if it's the initial stages, like for example, you see yourself skipping and avoiding work and you're starting to dread it, just that's just the few signs. It's not even to the point of you getting sick yet. But you already feel tired. You already feel exhausted at the point. But then you still keep pushing. That's the time that you really should have an off day and like really schedule it, or schedule a set work time that's only up until that time that I'm going to work. So boundaries, to say the least. So that is very important. And I also want to know about your experience about creative burnout, Brit. If you would
Oh,
like to share your story too.
oh God, yes. So creative burnout has occurred to me multiple times. Very ashamed and embarrassed to admit it, but it is true. It has happened to me multiple times during the course of the 1.5 years that I have been online. But I can say with conviction that over time, I have been able to reduce the level of creative burnout. So I guess that's one thing that I can probably say, okay, I've been actively working. And boundaries, Ira, you said it just perfect. At one point, I was working till like 4 a.m. in the morning, and then I was waking up at 6 a.m. again with hardly, time to even take a break or even sleep. And I was just working on and on. And I think, especially in my line of work, I love what I'm doing. Like, there is no off button in my head at all. And for me to take a step back and realize I really needed to have that off button so that I could, protect my own mental health and, not burn out and protect my own energy. That's when it got really bad. I felt really sick, physically sick. Mentally, I was, it was sort of not an existential crisis, but I was like, am I doing the right thing? Is this worth it for me? Do I move forward with this? Why am I even doing this? Why am I stressing myself out so much? And it was just, that flurry of thoughts. And then I just gave up for 1 month. I took a step back and then I said, no, I'm not touching social media. I'm not getting into it. And that's also one more problem with my line of work is that I'm constantly on social media. So, and I have to be because it is my bread and butter. But I had to start putting boundaries, and that's really a good advice. I started keeping time, like 30 minutes on social media per day. That's it, not more than that. Sleeping by 9:30, 10 p.m. in the night, and waking up at 5 a.m. so that I had just enough good rest. And then in the morning, meditation. Meditation really helped me refocus and recenter myself, and then just keeping really healthy habits like taking alternate weekends off, which is something that I decided from this year that I was going to do. This weekend was a vacation, mini vacation for me. So every alternate weekend I'm going to be taking off. And that's because I had like a massive burnout end of December. I have to admit that, I put myself into too many things. I was opening up an Etsy page. I was also, doing back end work for the tribe. So yes, it was a lot of work and it was a lot of energy drained out of me, and I refused to take a break. So that also, I felt sick, and we actually were supposed to shoot this podcast before the new year, and then I was sick. I just couldn't do it. And Ira was so understanding, and we pushed it to today. But yeah, that's when I made it a rule. And this is also something that I am implementing is every quarter I have something called a CEO weekend, where it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where I go for massages. I even, even if I have to, I will book a hotel and just stay there and, take a book, read, decompress. And that time is my time. No one is allowed to contact me, or even if they do, it doesn't matter to me. But these are things that I have put into my active schedule instead of saying, oh, okay, when I'm burned out, I will take a break kind of thing. So I feel like that was also another thing that has helped me, just knowing that, okay, the next weekend is an off, and then I have one weekend every quarter where it's just for me. It's just so much of a relief on myself. So boundaries, keeping time for yourself, giving, letting yourself know that it's okay to take a break and it's okay to balance your life. I think those were one of my, I think, tips, I guess, because I've been through it a lot, and I feel like I'm at a much better place where I can recognize it. So definitely, Ira. So what about, situations where it reaches an extreme? Sometimes you can't recognize it, or maybe you do recognize it, and in your case, you had to keep working. There was no choice. So how do you deal with extreme situations like that?
So during that time, I wasn't really good at handling that thing. So I was lost too. And then that's when it unraveled into a quarter life crisis for me. Because one, yeah, I was isolating myself. That's already a big, like, major sign that that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be happening. And two, like you said, uh, behind that overworking, pushing yourself, there's some sort of need to say. Not really a need, but there's something within us that we feel like we have to do. Like, for example, I have to catch up with everyone at my age because at this age, I should have this, I should have that. So, there's that pressure. We all feel that pressure. But let me just say, we all have our own journey. So, like for you, you experience that burnout working on your business, and there's nothing wrong with it because you also love that line of work. Yet at the same time, we're also navigating life outside of school, and outside of school, everything is set up. We're almost all on the same level playing field, something like that. So there's also that comparison. And since we're always on social media too, there's that comparison, comparisonitis. But there's also, it's also part of us not accepting our own feelings of not really envy and jealousy, but when we see other people around our age, we feel that is already like they already have something more and you don't. Yes, that's comparison, but at the same time we feel like we're left behind. That's why we also push ourselves. So yeah, at that time I was feeling a little bit left behind by my batchmates in high school and the culinary school. So we just kept working and working on my friend's restaurant. And even though we love being chefs, we love working as a chef, we love the work. Yeah, it really took a toll on us. And the number one thing that I think really got me out of that was my mom. My mom's intervention because I was just always complaining about my shoulder and all of that. But she brought me to a doctor, and that doctor is also a pastor in one of the churches that we go to. So there was kind of a coaching that happened, and he also led me to become honest with myself. He said that self-care is self-love and that is not selfish. So he said I already know what to do really about if I want to leave work or not, if it's really for me. I know that for myself already. And he was just the one asking me some questions. He even said, "You already know it. You just have to decide and you have to live with that decision. And whatever that is, it's going to be the right decision because I had the conviction to do that." So eventually, I left work and took care of myself more. And I even got a dog to not really take care of, but it's sort of when I also took care of my dog Luna. Her name is Luna. So when I also took care of her, I was taking her for walks. I'm also taking care of myself because I'm going walking. So that was just kind of my hack to get myself out of that situation too. And I also had to have hard conversation with my friend because I promised her that I'd be there for a year, I'd work for her for a year as her sous chef. But then it was only 8 months and I was really extremely burnt out. I was experiencing that existential crisis that I don't even know if I want to be a chef anymore, and if I still want to cook, if I still want to be in the professional kitchen. So it that point in my life, it was a really low point, and there's so much questioning that has happened, not only for my line of work, and for my creativity, but also with what I believe in, my spirituality, my physical and mental health. And it took time. It also took time for me to get back to my real self, my happy self. Because at that time, I was just feeling so low. So, definitely before things unraveled to that situation, I also felt off. And yeah, I was really pushing myself so hard because of I was also comparing myself to others.
I think you bring up such an important point, Ira, that most of the time, the reason why we are constantly in overdrive mode is because we are comparing ourselves to everyone around us, and just understanding that everyone's journey is different. Everyone is at a different time in this journey, in their own journey, is such a different mindset to be in. And I feel, especially with me, and I think that a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs will also agree with this, is that we are starting at zero. We are starting
Yes, exactly.
from, as opposed to someone who's in corporate and they're starting at 100K salaries per annum and whatnot. And we are starting at zero. So that is absolutely frightening. It's absolutely scary. And you feel like, okay, I'm back at level zero. But what people don't understand is that you're actually at your own pace. You are in a completely different race. Like, it's not even a race. It's not even, you're not even in the
It's
same
a journey.
track or anything like that. It's just your own thing. You let them begin wherever they are, let them be at whatever journey they are, whatever stage they're in, and you are just at your stage of your entire journey. So I think understanding that was a huge key for me as well. Because I panicked when I first started my business and I was at zero income, because I mean, I had to invest everything into my business. So I was not earning anything for myself. So it was hard. It was scary, going from a good six-figure salary all the way down. It's hard. So I feel, definitely goal setting. It was amazing that your mom stepped in. I feel like moms always know what to do, especially during times like this. And even for me, definitely, both my parents, when I was in India, luckily, they see me all the time and stuff like that. My dad, who's actually super chill as a person, he never comments on what I do and stuff like that. As long as I'm a good human being, he's completely fine. And he actually commented, he said, I think you're doing something wrong. And so, because he's never commented anything about what I've ever done, the fact that he said this was like an eye opener for me. And I realized, okay, well, I need to figure something out so that I'm able to balance both and I'm not, wrecking my health. Because at the end of the day, as the CEO of your company, you need to have that energy to run your business. And if you don't have that, then the business does not exist. So
Yes.
that's exactly what I realized. So absolutely great thoughts on this, and especially the journey thing. I think it's so important to realize you need to take a step back. It's okay wherever you are perfectly at the spot that you want to be in. So
Yes, because I
yeah.
think because society has already set that map for all of us. Like, for example, you go to school, you get a job, and then you have a family, and then you die, basically.
Basically.
Which is so much. You retire and then you die. It was so clear cut from the get go, and we're all of us are waking up to this as well. That, oh, we don't want to do that anymore. Times are changing, and um as we see, more and more people are going online, getting new lines of work, being online, and creating jobs. And I think that's something that none of us ever saw, even back then, even back in high school. We have no idea we could make money from the internet, right? So uh so we have all those we have big, I think, for most of us that are in this generation, we all have big dreams, but we also don't know how it will unfold. And then when we have that clear path that society has already set for us, we can't really what how can I say this? Um think out of that box, so not everyone is taking that leap, because you see everyone else working on their job, and they're doing well based on their social media, which is like 1% of everyone's lives. So it it's kind of ridiculous that we're comparing ourselves, but we do that because we want to belong with everyone else, that we also have money, we also have fulfillment. But at the same time, what if our journey is supposed to just unfold in front of us, and taking a step back is part of it? What if at that time we just have to lean back a little bit and then recalibrate back to ourselves, and then eventually taking one step at a time, even just those one steps, baby steps, as they say, it compounds to something big. It compounds to even what they call quantum leaps. And so, so yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Ira. I completely agree with that. And I definitely support your idea that, it's just about baby steps. Just think about the next step. It's very daunting, yes, that everybody else around you has that clear-cut step. They are doing whatever they think is best for them, and you, at the moment, you're definitely taking a different path, and it's not so common yet. It's not, something that is so widely accepted. There are, people skepticism around, so it is very easy to get bogged down by all of that. So completely agree with that. And I think keeping in mind that, you are trailblazing a new path. Okay, so
Exactly.
it's different, it's going to be different for you, but that is why you chose this journey in the first place, because it is so magical, it is so different, and because it just lights a fire in your life. So you need to know how to sustain that fire instead of just burning out. So
Yes,
definitely
definitely.
agree a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why the saying that the doctor said to me, self care is self love, is never selfish, is not selfish. That that became my battle cry for a very long time. And now that I have my own business, I'm not rushing into it, to say, to be honest. I don't even have clients now yet, but I'm also okay with it because I'm building on this for life. Because some people, if they don't reach, like for example, 3 months they don't have any clients yet, 4 months they don't have any clients yet, they're starting to leave that online space, whether it's freelancing or coaching or anything else online. They start to leave. But you also realize it also takes time to build.
Yes,
So even if you're a year in or 2 years in, and you don't have the amount of money that everyone else already has in this space, one, you could ask for help. And two, maybe sometimes it's just that one more step, and then it all floods in. Some
yes,
people, for some people, it happens like that. And even if it's not on the online space, even as a writer, like for me, I write poems. During the beginning of being online, actually, my Instagram page is more on poetry, and my following did not build just by randomly posting stuff. I was consistently putting out poems for like 3 months, and then I reached almost 1,000 on my account. And it really takes time. That one was 3 months. That's a bit quick because I also applied some strategies on Instagram that I found. So that's already helpful. That's why you also need to ask for help, because some people have strategies that you can apply for you to grow a little bit faster, but it doesn't mean you're left behind. It means the journey is still unfolding, and that is also okay. The more we accept that our journey is unfolding right in front of us and we're okay with it, the more it unfolds and the more we don't worry about it, the more you'll be able to appreciate that journey. And I think that's real abundance, because you can be thankful for what you already have, and no, you know that no matter where you're going, you're okay, you're safe, you're you're gonna get there no matter what, because you're doing your best too.
Yes, that's so true. This is definitely something that I've been thinking a lot about. So, yes, I absolutely resonate with everything that you said, especially what your pastor told you. Self love is the best self care. Is that what he said? Did I butcher it?
Self-care is self-love, and it's not selfish.
Self care is self love and it's not selfish. That is beautiful. That is such
Yes.
beautiful words. So,
Yes.
Ira, now, for example, we've kind of figured out the signs and all of those things. And what if, it's an extreme case, or we want to just prevent it altogether? We don't even want to see the signs and stuff like that. Do you have a technique that can help people even prevent your burnouts?
For prevention, number one is to slow down, because no matter, even if you're working, actually you can do this, no matter how much you don't notice it, it builds up. Even just the little things, it builds up. Like for example, 1 hour of overtime. Imagine for a month you're working overtime, that builds up, the exhaustion builds up. So number one for me is slowing down and stopping, and really taking the time to just sink into our body, because most of the times we also don't feel, like we avoid all the feelings. Like for example, we're already feeling bad, we don't take time to ask ourselves, wait, what do I need today? I woke up a little bit anxious today, for example. Wait, what do I need today? Do I need to take a shower? Do I need to eat something healthy? What do I need? You have to always be aware and be conscious and ask yourself that question. Wait, I'm not feeling okay. What do I need? And sometimes we don't even acknowledge that we're feeling okay. So those are the first signs of prevention. First signs and first ways to prevent that uh, burnout and existential crisis is to, yeah, really take the time to become aware and to ask ourselves, what do we need whenever we're feeling bad? And then for extreme cases, number one, if you're already sick, you're already, I could say that for some it turns into depression as well, because it's a full on existential crisis. And for some it even shows up in midlife. For other people it's midlife crisis, so around 30s, 40s. And at that time they're already established, you could say. Imagine that. They're already established, they already have everything, but their inner internal world is like upside down. They have all these things, but then they feel disconnected with it. So, and for quarter life crisis, I could say that you usually don't have everything yet, but you feel disconnected. You feel like there's something more to this. You feel like there's a calling for you as well. So, yeah, you have to acknowledge that too. The calling of something more. And I know for some it's a privilege, because I see it in the Philippines that most um most people who are in the poverty line, they don't even have a choice. So I could definitely say that for most of us were able to study even, it's a privilege for us, definitely. So yeah. And wait, where was I? So sorry.
No worries.
And yeah, when there's exhaustion and yeah, physical, mental exhaustion, one is definitely to reach out to professionals if you can reach out to a therapist. And if you don't want to reach out to a therapist, you can reach out to coaches, life coaches, and sometimes even business coaches because it's all interconnected, as I could say. So that's the number one tip that I have. Whenever you feel like you're extremely low and you don't know what to do about it, reach out to a professional because I don't even want to say that coaches are the perfect ones to reach out because psychologists and therapists and that's their that's really their line of work. That's really their expertise, I could say. So number one is to reach out to them. And if you feel a little bit much better, or if you can work with a coach and a therapist, that's much better too. But if because not everyone has the money to spend for a therapist, yeah, then reach out to a life coach. They can even reach out to me and we'll definitely find ways for you to reconnect back to yourself because mostly it's a disconnection towards the self. So there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of misalignment, and the I could also say that people are not doing the things that they really love. That's why they feel so disconnected to themselves too because even just not really about work because sometimes the work is the thing that you also love. But what about for hobbies? If you're not doing the hobbies that you love, sometimes you're starting to feel disconnected to the work that you love as well. I don't know if it's the same thing for you or if you saw that, but that's another sign.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like work at the end of the day, how much ever you love it, how much ever you're passionate about it, is work. Okay. There is that pressure of money. There is that pressure of making it big. There is that pressure of being successful in what you do and all of those things. So even though I'm extremely passionate about marketing, it has taken me a while to realize that that is not my hobby. And I have to take some time out to actually have a hobby, whether it is reading a book or, dancing or singing or whatever it is. Take some time out to just focus on my hobby. And I felt that when I did not have that work life balance, I was feeling very resentful because I was not able to focus on other things that were important to me as well, like my self-care routine, books, and dancing and stuff like that. So I feel like eventually you can get very resentful of your work life, even though you are passionate about it, even though you love, love, love doing it, because you are not engaging in activities that don't bring you revenue, but they just are food for your soul.
Yes, that the things that really just light you up, even just walking in nature or
That's true.
playing with your dog. For example, if you have pets or even your cat or uh, even with your siblings. So for me, the main reason that I went into culinary was also to be able to cook for my family. And so when it became work, that's when the joy was kind of taken out of it and it became routinely. So yeah, they have to recognize that too. That no matter how much you love your work, it is also work. And even though some people say that um, work a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life, you also have to rest, and you also have to replenish that creativity and that inspiration or that motivation. And it's very very important to really take care of yourself because even if, like, for example, cooking can also be a hobby, right? So if back then when I wasn't working yet, even though I'm studying culinary, so here studying culinary on one side, and then on the flip side, I'm cooking for my family. I love it. But then I don't dread studying culinary. But then when I worked on it, when I was working on the real kitchen, professional kitchen, it's different. So it's the same thing for work as well. Like for you, market you love marketing, that's for sure. But then you also there's also other people that's in it. Like for example, clients. You don't know who you'll get. You don't know if they're in line with the same values that you have. That's important too. And you don't know if you'd be able to work together really well. So you have to really gauge yourself and really take care of yourself. Like fill your own vessel first before pouring out onto others.
Yes, that's such a beautiful line, Ira. That's so true. I see that all the time with my business, and definitely this was one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I first started out. I made a ton of them, and all of them I say are my biggest mistakes. But it is true, you know. But of course, there's such a learning curve with this and all of that. I feel like we have given tons and tons of advice to my podcast listeners in this episode. So thank you so much for that, Ira. Now, if we were to,
Welcome.
summarize this entire episode with just three quick actionable tips that our audience can, take away from this episode, what would they be?
Number one is when you're feeling bad, recognize that and then ask yourself, what do I need? And then number two, self love. Self care is self love and it's not selfish. So always remember that. And number three, never shy away from asking for help. Yeah, so there's that. And so I also have um, a goal setting guide that people could get. Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Tell them a little bit more about why goal setting is so important, especially when it comes to dealing with creative burnout, and tell them the details of how they can get it. Of course, I'll be putting those details in the description box below as well, guys. But, just hear it from Ira.
yeah, so my goal setting guide is called Aligned Intentional Magical 2021 for this year. And there are a couple of journal prompts there and a couple of tips that they could use to reflect on what they really want for this year, what they really want to connect with, what do they want to feel, and all of that. Because like I said, coming back to yourself is the most important. And you won't really recognize that. You won't really be aware of that if you're not asking yourself the right questions too. So that's the journal prompts purpose as well. So, and since it's still the beginning of the year, it's a perfect time to still reflect. And if they need my help, they can just message me on Instagram at I am Solomon, and they can always find me there. And it it will be on the description box on your podcast. So definitely, I'll be very happy to help anyone who will reach out.
Yes, guys, for those of you who are listening, and Ira definitely helps people handle, creative burnout, helps them de-stress. She actually is a guest course creator on the Insta Savvy Tribe as well. So there's that. And Ira is also the founding member of the Insta Savvy Tribe as well. So I have seen Ira's expertise firsthand, and she is awesome, guys. So if anything, feel free to reach out to her via Instagram. I'll put all the links in the description box below. Feel free to get that freebie from Ira. It's definitely going to help you, especially with goal setting and managing your creative burnout, because we don't really want to get to an extent where we give up doing what we love. We want to continue doing it. We want to keep that fire alive. And we definitely want to keep pursuing this unique, this amazing, this magical path that we have chosen and that we love doing so much. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Ira, any last words for my podcast listeners?
Thank you so much, Brit, for having me. And yes, as always, remember self care is self love, and that's not selfish. And that the most important thing is to come back to your truth, come back to you, come back to taking care of yourself, come back to building yourself up. And I'm always here. Also, Prit is always there for you. So thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here. It's an honor. And Happy New Year.
Well, thank you so much, Ira, for being on this podcast. I'm sure a lot of us have learned so much from you today. We will definitely be reaching out to you for your expertise. For those of you who are listening, the same podcast episode is going to be available on YouTube in case you want to, see us converse and me nodding my head furiously at everything that Ira has said so far. But feel free to also watch this episode on YouTube as well. And Happy New Year to all of you. And I will catch you guys in my next episode. Bye, guys.